I have no idea what's happening today. I really don't. You are going to have to excuse my hair for the rest of this video because quite frankly, I cannot be bothered to change it. It's one of those days. It looks like a palm tree after a storm. Very, very sad. I'm wearing a top that's too cool tone for me that I really don't like. I don't know why I'm wearing it. I just put it on and thought, ugh. Do you ever have those days where you are full of good intentions to really make a positive impact on the world and really get the day rolling, and then it just doesn't really happen? It's one of those days today, but hopefully my mood will be elevated by filming this video because I did a video not so long ago that featured a lot of different products that I personally had been influenced to buy. A lot of the products that I'm going to be applying in this video featured in that video. If you haven't seen it already, I will link it up here for you, but let's get straight on with it. If you're new here, hi, my name's Gemma. I upload new videos on YouTube every single week and I would absolutely love it if at some point in this video you would consider hitting the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. Does anybody else fold the top of the tape down just in case there's a tape emergency? You need to get your hands on tape really quickly. I don't understand anybody that doesn't do that and then has to spend 5 minutes finding the end of the tape. No. Oh, it's okay. I've got it. Emergency averted. So I managed to put my tape on, all in place, completely forgot to prime my lids. So I'm just doing that now after the tape. Usually I would do it before, but we're just gonna hope for the best. This is my PLOUISE Base, which I love. And this one is in the shade 2.5. And then let's take a look at the Anastasia Beverly Hills Nouveau Palette. This is an eyeshadow and pressed pigments palette and it is beautiful. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't gonna pick this up because the lilac shade put me off a little bit. I am not a lilac fan, but all the rest of the shades are lovely. Word of warning though, there are 3 shades in this palette that you're not supposed to get really close to your eye. It doesn't say you're not supposed to use them on your eyes, but you're not supposed to get them really close. So those shades are Metro, Paloma, and the lilac shade, Wisteria. The Wisteria shade is not going anywhere near my face, so that doesn't really matter. I'm not against lilac in general, but when I had my first house, I painted the entire kitchen lilac and purple. I even had a lilac carpet. It looked like something out of changing rooms. I'm not quite sure what I was thinking of, but yeah, it was a disastrous fail. But because I didn't want to admit I was wrong, I lived with it for a good year. Stubborn as anything, but yeah, I really didn't like it and it's put me off lilac and purple for life. So there are 6 metallics in here which are so creamy and soft, extremely good quality pigments. And then there are 6 mattes. Again, 3 of those shades you're not supposed to get really, really close to the eye, but I can't see there being a major issue just using them for a crease color. I suppose it depends whether you want to risk it. I'm not sure what sort of eye look I want to create with this because you have the best of all worlds with this palette. You can go neutral, you can go muted, you can go bold, you can do the pinks, you can do the greens, you can do the peacock shade, which is stunning, and depending on which way you're looking, how your eye catches the light, it depends on how that shade looks. It is just the most beautiful shade. Maybe I go for using that one today. I am sort of in a green mood though, but I always tend to do green looks. Let's just see where this takes me. I'm gonna go into the shade Fleur to begin with and just lay some shade down in the crease. I love how creamy and soft and blendable these shadows are. Look how stunning that is. I'm going to take a little bit of Liberty on a really small brush and I'm just going to pack that just on that lower half and do a little bit of a liner, not massively accurate, just want to give it a little bit of a lift on that outer corner. So I think I'm going to go in with Peacock all over the lid and then add a bit of light to the center of the lid with a slightly lighter shade. Look at that. Oh my goodness. So I've never had this actually on my eyelid before. I've swatched this shade but not actually used it. That is lovely. Then I'm going to take some of the shade Wings and I'm going to place that towards the inner corner and just blend those two shades together until you can't really see where one of them starts and the other one ends. Then again, I'm just going to soften those together so that it gets more dramatic as it gets further to the outer corner of the eye. Just love that. I don't think it's showing up on camera as beautiful as it does in real life, but everything will come together at the end. So I've got a little bit of fallout on my cheeks, but I've been using this for the last couple of days and had zero fallout when I've used my fingertips and when I've not gone in with a fluffy brush and buffed the shadows on the eyelids to soften them off. So it's not the palette that is prone to fallout and flakiness, it's just my application method today. So I'm just gonna deepen off the wing that we created, firstly with the shade Peacock, which is all over the lid because I want to get a really crisp edge. Then I'm going to go into Muse, which is more of a brownie shade, and just deepen that off a little bit more. To tightline, I'm using the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal in the shade Olive. Just a lovely shade. And then rip these off. Lovely. So we'll come back to the Nouveau palette a little bit later, but let's do base. Firstly, Prep, Set and Glow from Givenchy, just spritz. Where's my fan? Oh, pretentious wafting will have to do. This dries down so nicely as well. It's not like it completely drenches the skin because the mist is so fine and it just gives you that glow whilst also giving you a little bit of SPF protection. This does have an SPF of 45 in here with a PA rating of plus, but you're not applying enough of it to actually get that rating. So it's only a little bit of extra protection, but it all helps. So the foundation that I'm going to be using today is the Tom Ford Shade and Illuminate Soft Radiance. This as well has an SPF of 50 in here, and I'm going to be teaming that with my Revolution Ultra Cream Bronzer in medium because this is in the shade 0.5 Porcelain, which is too fair for my skin, especially at the moment with a tiny bit of fake tan left on. So I'm going to be applying the Revolution Ultra Cream Bronzer first because I just think that is the way of getting the most beautiful airbrushed finish. So let me just grab a brush and I'm going to be messy. This is one of those situations where you can be messy and you don't have to worry about it. So this is super dark, isn't it? It looks really, really mad. So I'm just going to apply where I want it. I'm not doing too much blending at first because it's just not necessary. You'll blend when the foundation goes on. Just trust the process because this looks scary ridiculous at the moment. Bit higher up than I'd usually contour. What shade is this? This is medium. Yeah. Looks a lot warmer on screen than it does in person. Looks like a bruise. Then I'm going to pop a little bit on my chin as well, and then a bit down the sides of my nose. Okay, then I'm going to blend it slightly, but again, not overly. I'm just stamping it really. So this looks a little bit like the fake tan video that I did about 3 years ago. If you haven't seen that video already, it's a disaster. I will link it up here for you. I was actually talking about that video to a friend the other day. She was in stitches and every time she's having a bad day, she puts that video on. Always makes her feel better. Right, I'm going to apply the foundation. So you need very little of this and you need a really good brush. So the brush that I'm going to be using is my Zoeva 104 buffer brush because I'm going to stamp this on rather than really blending or swiping. So I'm going to go into the areas that don't have any of the bronzer on to begin with. This is a completely new way of applying your products. I mean, it's not new, but it's new to me, but I've found that it really does work, especially if you've got a foundation that's too fair for you. If you've bought it by mistake, this is one way of making it work. When we're talking foundations that cost this much money, I just don't want it to sit in a drawer forevermore not being used. Okay, now we are going to stamp over the bronzer and just blend it all in. If I've got any in my hairline, I will clear that up with a bit of a wipe after I've finished the process. So doing it this way, it does seem like a lot of makeup to be applying to your skin, but believe me, I'm applying very, very little. It's just blending into the other products. So yes, this is slightly more than I would use if I was maybe using a tinted moisturizer or something like that. Slightly more coverage, but it looks airbrushed and polished and seamless once it's done. Now you do have to make sure that you blend everywhere out that you placed the bronzer. The other day I did my makeup like this and went out and realised I'd not buffed any of the bronzer that was around my jawline. It was very embarrassing, but it was an easy fix. So I'm just gonna go around my hairline with a tissue and just remove any of the product that's stuck to my hair. This is the problem with having blonde hair. Does everybody else have this issue? When I had darker hair, not a problem, nobody saw it. I am going to be having my hair down today, so you won't notice it as much, but I'm just going to take off a little bit. I also have this little bit of bum fluff that goes all the way around the perimeter of my forehead. Really, really tiny hairs that all the product gets caught on. Does anybody else have that issue? I mean, the struggle is real. Let's move on to concealer and then we can finish off the eye look. The concealer I'm going to be using today is from Huda Beauty and it's the FauxFilter concealer. I have a couple of shades. I've got 2.1N in Meringue and I've got 2.7N in Coconut Flakes, which I tend to use when I've got a bit more of a fake tan. And this one is for regular everyday use. Because I've got a little bit of my tan left, I am going to mix these two together, but usually I would be one or the other. So I've mixed the concealer on the back of my hand and then I've removed all the concealer from my finger. I'm just padding in to the concealer and then removing it on a dry bit of skin and just padding underneath my eye. This is so super pigmented, you need very little. You also have to work quite quickly with this because it does dry down quite fast. So go in really light layers. You can layer it up, but it's very, very difficult to work with if you apply too much in one go. I think this will be a little bit too finicky for some people, but I love it. This has the most beautiful finish. It's not flat matte. So if you're wanting to get away from a more matte concealer and you're only going with mattes because they provide more coverage for you, this may be one way that you may like to go, because this has a very natural satin-like finish to this concealer, which looks very, very flattering. It's quite light reflecting without being too radiant or dewy or sparkly underneath the eye. If you have dry patches underneath your eyes, you are going to want to prep the area within an inch of its life, because in my experience, this concealer does cling to dry patches. I do have some dry patches underneath my eyes. As long as I've prepped the area, this goes on really smoothly, blends out really lovely and lasts all day. Again, in my experience, I don't find this to be a drying formula. It's got no alcohol in it, so it shouldn't be drying underneath the eyes. I don't feel like I've got more dryness underneath my eyes the more I use the formula, but it does cling to any dryness that is already there, so just be warned. Now you'll have noticed I didn't use a colour corrector underneath my eyes. This has got enough coverage for me that I don't have to use that extra layer of product before I go in with concealer. I mean, I think this looks pretty good. If you are one of those people that doesn't like layering product up underneath your eyes, if you do have a lot of creasing, if you do have a lot of fine lines or wrinkles, again, this may be a way to go. I am going to pass this on to my mum to see what she thinks about it, and I will update you in a future video. Bit of NIKKIA Joy powder, and I'm just going to knock off the excess and just dust that anywhere where I might experience a bit of creasing. You cannot apply too much of this concealer because it will crease. If you apply the right amount, just enough. This tends not to crease on me, but just for that added bit of security, I do like to powder it in place. Okay, let's go back to the eye look. I am going to do the lower waterline with the Victoria Beckham pencil in the shade Olive. Stop talking while I do this, otherwise I end up poking myself in the eye. I'll not learn. Then I'm going to take this Peacock shade once again, knock off the excess because I don't want any fallout, and just really stamp that in right up to that waterline just to blend everything together. Then I'm actually going to take a little bit of the shade Isle, again knocking off the rest of the excess and just brightening up that middle section and then all the way to the inner corner. The gold with the Peacock shade is so pretty. We've got Cleopatra vibes going on today. Love it. Taking my e.l.f. brow lift and just popping a spoolie in there. And shaping those exactly where I want them. This is such good stuff. I really wish I'd found this sooner. Then I'm just going to fill in the gaps with my NYX Lift and Snatch pen. I don't have very many gaps to fill in at the minute, but we'll just make things a little more even. Let's get some mascara on to finish off the eye look. Just curling my lashes and then going to apply a couple of coats of my new favourite mascara. This is the Gucci mascara. It costs quite a bit for a mascara. Although saying that, it is the same price as the new Lancome mascara, which I really didn't like and will now go to waste. This, love it. Love the wand. It's great for the top lashes, but I can also do my lower lashes without fear of getting product all over my skin underneath my eyes. And it coats the lashes beautifully and individually. This does not clump the lashes up. It keeps them separated and fluttery. You can see each and every individual lash, which makes my lashes look fuller. No clumpiness at all. This will give length. It also gives volume. I mean, what is not to like? Other than the price tag. I love everything about this mascara. I'm going to use my Must Have matte lip pencil from Wonder 2 in the shade Needed Nude. This is so long lasting and creamy. I tend to put it not all over my lips. I tend not to put it right in the center, but I don't just line them. I tend to bring the line further in and just blend everything together so that if my lipstick wears off throughout the day, this still pokes through a little bit and everything still looks seamless without me having to look in a mirror constantly, which we all know I don't do. Shall I go pinky or shall I go brownie today? I think I'm in more of a pinky mood, so we're gonna go for the L'Oreal Signature High Shine Lip Stain, I think they are. Do not quote me on that. This is in the shade 305 Be Captivating. Ever since I bought these, they've not been off my lips. They are so comfortable to wear. It just feels like water. These feel so creamy and soft. If you want to build up the pigment, you can do. One coat will give you a semi-opaque finish, but you will still be able to see some of the lip poking through. I quite like that, and because I've got lip liner on underneath, you can't really tell anyway. So I'm not going to apply a second coat, although you can build it if you want to. Love it. Absolutely love it. Let's move on to the finishing touches. This is by RMS Beauty, and it's the Redimension Hydra Powder Blush. I've got the shade Mai Tai, which is just a bit of me. I love this. The consistency and the packedness of this, not even sure whether that makes sense, but it's quite hard pressed. That's what I should have said at the beginning. It's really quite hard pressed, so you're not gonna get masses on your brush. So it's not scary, suitable for beginners. So I just like to dab in the pan. I dab more than I would usually do in a powder blush and just dab that on the skin. Now this does have slight flecks and very small particles of radiance in here. Some people would call that glitter. It's not massive chunks, so I'm not going to call it glitter. A bit more of a shunkle, a sparkle if you will. Some people aren't going to like that. It is there. I personally love it, but it's down to personal preference. I'm just going to take that on the high points of my cheek. Again, you can use this as a highlighter as well as a blush because of that radiance within the formula. Oh, it's just so nice. Really, really pretty shade. Now, if you don't want as much pigment, don't press as much in the pan or use a slightly fluffier, less dense brush, and you'll get less colour payoff. I really do need to put this brush down because I am in the territory of way too much blush. Can that actually happen though? Is there such a thing as too much blush? Yes, there probably is. I do need to learn a lesson. Stop now, Gemma. Put the brush down. Put it down, put it down. There we go. Just lovely this. Really like it. It does remind me a little bit of the NARS, what was it? Orgasm on the Beach palette, Sex on the Beach palette. Let me just find it. So this is the one, this is the Orgasm on the Beach palette, and in my opinion, the formulas are very similar, although the Orgasm on the Beach palette has slightly more radiance to it. So if you're not into sparkle as much, but you do want that radiance, then the RMS is definitely the way to go. If you have this palette already though, and you love it, perhaps go for a different shade other than Mai Tai, because the shade Mai Tai and this shade here, which is the more orangey shade within the palette, very, very close. Let me just show you the swatches. So the one on the left is Mai Tai and the one on the right is the Orgasm on the Beach palette. I am going to dust my T-zone with a little bit of powder, but before I do, I'm going to go into this Victoria Beckham cream highlighter. This is in the shade Pearl, and it's the Reflect. How beautiful is that? Now, I'm not going to apply it directly to my skin because when I've done that in the past, it's lifted the product that I have underneath it. So I'm going to apply it with a brush straight onto my cheekbones and stamp it rather than swipe it. Let's have a little look here. This is extremely subtle, more of that wet look than real sheer radiance. It's going to give you a little bit of dew on the top of your cheekbones. I think that is really, really pretty. I may need to apply it with a brush that's slightly more precise. I think that's really nice. I'm not sure I love it. I will use it again with a different look when maybe I've got less of a bold eye look. When I'm going for something slightly more subtle and skin-like, I'll definitely try it again. But this is the product that, you know, it's never been on my skin before. So it does have a slight tackiness to it as well. I'm hoping that will dry down. Let's dust a little bit of powder over my face and then I can get on with my day. Just dotting over my T-zone. This powder brush is beautiful. It's just the right size. It's the Refa 30 brush. Really love it. So that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on the final look. Have you got any of the products used in this video? Do you love them? Do you really not get on with them? Do let me know your thoughts and experiences. I think this look would look so much better with a different color top and obviously with my hair done. I think it would look lovely with like a peacock blue or a navy blue or even a black, maybe even a white, but definitely not this sort of cool tone shade. I don't know. Let me know what color you think would go best with this. I also need to bronze my shoulders up a little bit because they're looking a bit pasty. Jobs for this afternoon. Really hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope to see you all in the next one. Bye everyone.